Welcome to YogiViews, where my guest is yoga itself, through interviewing those who practice it, teach it, sell it, or simply love it. I am Antonio Saucis. This is the second part of a two-part show where I'm interviewing Ashwini, Surpur, and Binta Patel. Ashwini is a director of yoga therapy at Yoga Bharati Bay Area chapter. She is a passionate yoga practitioner and therapist who quit her software profession at Oracle to serve the society in spreading the holistic aspects of yoga. Ashwini has completed her diploma in yoga therapy recently from the Indian University and is pursuing her master in Sanskrit. Binta Patel is a senior yoga teacher at Yoga Bharati. Binta is an avid and enthusiastic yoga practitioner and teacher with over 15 years of experience in Hatha, Vinyasa, and Vasishta styles of yoga.
My own son, who was 12, I gave some yoga practices for about a week. And then we had a break for 1 week because we had something going. And after a week, he said, "Can we do yoga?" I said, "Yeah, sure." "Why are you asking?" "Oh, because my body is stiff." I said, "Wow, that's good." And then he said, "Yoga is bad for health." I said, "Why?" "Because before I did yoga, I was never stiff. Now, 1 week of not doing yoga, I'm stiff." I said, "No, now you know you are stiff. That's the only difference." So that's how we are living.
It's a profound awareness for a 12-year-old, but and when it comes to the adults coming into this, it's really, really powerful. And I think yoga brings about that very powerful tool of awareness, of slowing down or knowing something has changed. And just going back to the stress conversation here, just as you were describing the different stress levels that start occurring at the physical level, the one thing that starts going on that we are so, I'm going to say, not accustomed to or not knowing is inflammation. And we don't even recognize what some of those symptoms of inflammation are, but because it's existing, and the story of the frog, that it's raising in the temperature, it doesn't know that it's there. And then we go to the doctor for a physical annual health checkup, and they say, "Oh, you've gained 15 pounds, and by the way, you're pre-diabetic, or now you have high blood pressure." They're in shock. They don't even know where to go and what to do. And so there becomes their journey of starting to take medicines, for instance, or maybe a trip down to a local yoga class, and they start getting into some of the awareness pieces of, wow, I think I know what this is about. And that's when some of the habits start changing for them as well. What they didn't know, what was happening in their environment, and their bodies evolving to a place of, I'm going to say, dis-ease as well, is they start recognizing, I think I need to go for a walk, or I need to stop eating the candies, so therefore I'll go pick up a piece of fruit. I think I need to go to sleep earlier as well.
Well, in fact, as I was hearing the story of your son, it's interesting because a lot of people think that by creating awareness, you're actually creating the problems. A lot of people think that, just as your son. And your son is 12, but there's a lot of people who are much older than 12, and they still continue to believe in this. And sometimes that's why they don't take actions towards healing or towards understanding or towards awareness.
Right.
Now, as you're describing the health benefits of yoga, and you named it yourself as yoga therapy, we are witnessing an amazing moment in regards to yoga therapy, because more and more teachers and masters are designing specific applications to address specific ailments, and more practitioners are using yoga to address their health and to gain some benefits. And there's a big discussion in this moment in the field because there's no valid definition of yoga therapy.
That's correct.
Do you have one?
Okay, very good question. And yes, you are right. There is a lot of work happening in yoga therapy, and there has not been a clear definition of yoga therapy. That's because yoga is seen in the same way as a modern medicine is seen, in a reductionist way.
Yes.
That is, I have this back pain, so what exactly helps me? Many people come to me and ask me the same question all the time. They say, my left eye has a problem. Do you have a therapy for that? And then we initially used to explain the holistic approach of yoga therapy, and they would say, you know, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She needs to give me something exactly for my left eye, right? Then I started understanding their mindset, and we would say, okay, fine, we have something for your left eye. And then slowly induce the holistic approach. And as they practice, as they understand, we started giving them more and more concepts, and they understood how the left eye can help by simply sitting and even doing a relaxation practice or chanting mantras or lying down and practicing the mind sound resonance technique, which is a beautiful relaxation using some chantings. So having said that, our parent organization, Vivekananda Yoga Research Foundation, has got modules for each one of these different ailments to address those specific problems of their, you know, anatomical issues or hormonal issues. Definitely certain asanas help one for certain conditions, no doubt about that. But as long as one is aware of the fact that mind is the most important factor here, and the rest to the mind, the rest to the whole personality, and the internal transformation is the word that Dr. H.R. Nagendra, who is the Vice Chancellor of Vivekananda Yoga University, he keeps using this term all the time. Holistic internal transformation of the personality. That means I'm not practicing yoga on the mat alone. I'm practicing yoga all my life. And my practice of yoga on the mat is for the sake of being in the state of yoga off the mat. So that is very important factor to understand. And if you do that, then you are preventing the damage from happening in the first place. We know that the speed of at the mind level percolates into the body, causing my disease. How about if I relax throughout the day, no matter what I'm doing? This is my own personal experience too. I had insomnia for a very long time. And now, as I went on getting deeper and deeper into the practice of yoga, not just on the mat, but off the mat, observing myself, being aware, oh look, you are now hurrying up. Oh look, you are now getting stressed out. Cool down, calm down, take it easy, take a deep breath. As I started saying to myself all these things, when I yell at somebody, I don't blame anybody but me. I go back, introspect. Why did you do that? Could you have handled it this way? When I sit down for meditation, first 5 minutes is, how has your last 24 hours been? Is there a scope for improvement? Not being critical. First accept yourself, love yourself, with compassion, change. It took me a whole 5 years of meditation to get here, but the change is so profound that my health, I can see a huge improvement in my health, and I can see a huge improvement in my IQ at this age. I have better memory, better capacity to learn now than I had at 30. So all this improvement, I'm getting sharper and I'm getting better. That's my experience of yoga.
Yeah.
I remember that one of my guests some time ago, Dr. Ananda Balayogi Bhavanani, he said if we continue trying to fit yoga into the allopathic way, we're going to end up having yogopathy more than yoga therapy.
Absolutely.
So I think this is a term you will.
Correct.
Now, in order for people to accept the benefits of yoga, and very especially here in the Western world, and because of various reasons, research has become quite important, because research is offering the medical establishment the opportunity of validating the facts, really testing or proving that yoga is indeed effective for addressing health. You just mentioned the Vivekananda Yoga Research Association. How are you related to this arena?
Right. So, Vivekananda Yoga Research Foundation has been our parent organization for the most part. We bring their yoga teachers training, we bring their yoga therapy courses into Yoga Bharati. So the concept also comes from there. The entire holistic yoga and the purpose of yoga and yoga research that they have been conducting all of that, we pretty much leverage that. The experts from Vyasa, in short, for Vivekananda Yoga Research Foundation, they also come to Bay Area at least once or twice a year, and we conduct practices, we conduct workshops, we conduct lectures by the faculty at Vyasa. So that's how we are related, though there is no command structure as such, or any kind of even financial connection as such. We pay them for the courses that we bring from them. So we have memorandum of understanding, and this is how we have been doing. Mostly because we have the same theme and same goals. That's the idea. And coming to research in America that you are talking about versus research there, the research that modern medicine has been conducting so far is again easier. It's much easier to do a research on a particular drug and isolate it from the rest of the ingredients and say this particular drug does these things to the rats in the cages, right? It's much easier to prove that way. But how are you going to prove something that is happening to your mind, something that's happening deep within? Because yoga is an experiential science. Even with all this, Guruji, Dr. H.R. Nagendra, has conducted enormous amount of research projects and has produced quite a few papers. They're all partly it has been easier to do research there because they have a 150 bed wellness clinic where people show up with various diseases, and it's a residential setup. People stay there every day. They go through these yoga therapy sessions for 10 hours in a day. And those 10 hours are not necessarily asanas. They'll be doing bhajans, kirtans, chantings, pranayama, relaxation, various practices, counseling, yogic counseling, all of it. And they take these parameters, various health parameters, whether it's blood pressure, breath rate, the Brahmari, they make them chant humming sound and check how long a person can chant, lung capacity test basically, using the chanting of humming. All these various parameters are checked, plus their own parameters. If the person is diabetic, then sugar. All of these are checked the day they enroll into this program till every single day till they leave. So that itself forms data already. Yeah. So and all it takes is to compile this data, and you have the data there. So that's how they have been. They have the base right there. In fact, they have very good yoga group. They always have access to yoga group. It's the control group that they have a problem with. So, yes. So they have produced quite a few research papers that are PubMed indexed, peer reviewed, published in many scientific journals. But the modality is slightly different. The whole holistic therapy is given to them. So the effect of the holistic therapy is what is examined, not necessarily just doing a certain asana. And how I've seen some of the research papers in the West, not to condemn, they're all wonderful and they have their own place. But the research of again reductionist approach to it, saying this particular asana and its physiological effect, when someone raises their, goes on a shoulder stand, how the blood flows, reverse blood flow, all these things are wonderful, no question. But doing a research on a holistic therapy is hard, but they have done it, and that is the part we really like about the Vyasa research.
Well, because that involves a methodological problem, because here and in the Western world, precisely you want to isolate.
That's correct.
As much as you can to just study the incidence of one parameter. And what you're saying is that, in fact, we want to bring all of them because that's what yoga is about. Yeah. Now, you both were mentioning awareness, consciousness, awareness. And mainly you were bringing up an ancient technique, Atma Vichara, self-inquiry. Who am I? Why? How do I feel? When did it change? What was I thinking? Can that be researched? The effectiveness of self-inquiry. Do you think, this is a personal question, do you think it can be researched?
I don't think so. And if it can, in fact, it's both yes and no, because you can say that it cannot be researched in a way that the modern science wants to research, but has it already been researched? Absolutely. So you have, that is why you have so many different ways of looking at the fact, because Buddha has done his research, Patanjali has done his research, and Madhvacharya has done his research, Ramanujacharya has done his research. They all have produced research papers, and they seem to be different, but they are not. So when I talk to some of the gurus who have arrived here, I was asking, we were heavily debating, in fact, in the whole discussion hall about, no, it has to be dualistic, it has to be monistic. He finally said, can you please stop this? Because this is not about what it is. It's about what the person, how the person would have thought. Go into their minds, go into their own research and look at it from their own lens. You will come to the same conclusion that they came to. And now turn yourself around, take the other path. In fact, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa did that. He wore the Christian dress and he practiced the whole, as if he's a Christian, and he saw God. Then he dressed up as a Muslim and he practiced namaz and he did the whole thing and he saw God. So it's not that they're all different. It's not that they are not researched. They are there and they're repeatable. Swami Vivekananda said, this whole thing is repeatable. You do it, you will reach the same conclusion. Somebody else does it, paths are different. So this whole debate is about the path. It's not about the conclusion, because the conclusion has to be the same. So research is done. Brahma Sutra is the ultimate culmination of all these things. And when we read that, it just, mind jumps with joy. And I'm reading Tarka Shastra, which is logic, where they say everything is just atom. At the bottom-most level, they look at it as atoms, as categories, as substances, and the whole study, they say the study of all these things, the deepest study of one atom can make you a realized person. And I was so surprised and pleasantly shocked. So yes, research is done.
And now, either based on the formal academical research or on the experiential research, could you give us a few examples of some of the psychosomatic illnesses or conditions that are related to stress and how yoga addresses them, briefly?
So just starting off with some of the very common, I'm going to call them now chronic illnesses that are now prevalent in both the Eastern societies and now also here in the Western side. We talk about heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, some of those kinds of things, and strokes. And when we start going back into what the causes are, and Ashwini spoke about that at the very base level of the mind losing its equilibrium. And so when the mind is disturbed, the stress is getting created. And that stress is getting created, we're either not able to address it, knowing how to react to it, and therefore the conditions start getting worse and worse, and our stress levels or our stress tolerance levels start rising. And so when we're in those situations, we're saying, how can we slow down? What can we be doing to change or reverse some of these conditions? And so if we know at the base level that we've created these conditions, we can also reverse them. So if we can come to some of that understanding, that's really a great place to start, because then we can start having some understanding of acceptance as well. And just starting at a very physical level, just in terms of where and how, it's about slowing down the mind. And some of the techniques in terms of resolving some of these are going to be just around the mind sound resonance techniques, relaxation. How can we really slow down the mind? And when we give a very simple example, we'll just talk about a child who's 3 or 4 years old, has just had a very busy day playing just all the way around, falls asleep just on the floor, can sleep for 10, 12 hours just with no disturbances. The parents are milling about doing nothing. The next day, the child's playing even more exhausted. He's sleeping a couple of more hours extra. The parents are getting worried. What's happened? The child wakes up and he's back to himself again. But we as adults, we've built up this tolerance to the point that we've become immune to the stresses, and we don't know what's happened to our physical and the emotional and the hormonal imbalances as well. So sleep, bottom line, isn't going to be enough to resolve some of these things. So there are some specialized techniques that make some of these things turn around very easily. So relaxation is one of them, chanting is another, changing the food diets, changing how you actually wake and sleep, what times of the days you're sleeping and waking is going to have powerful impacts as well. So those get to be a big part of the changes as well.
Wakeful state of relaxation is what we call it. Wakeful state of relaxation is proven to be at, up to 3 times more relaxing and more deeper in terms of reducing the basal metabolic rate than sleep itself. So that will give you deep rest to the tissues, to the organs, to the hormones that have been all disturbed. So when you are practicing wakeful state of relaxation, you will get that much more deeper rest to your system. And all it requires is, like what Binta just said, the child who is exhausted needs to sleep to rest. The adult who is exhausted needs relaxation to rest. So that's the...
So relaxation would be the base. Now, I want to play devil's advocate here just for a moment, because if everything starts with the mind that becomes overactive and hyperactive, but then on the other hand, the nature of the mind is to be inquisitive, and it's to be wandering, and it's to be jumping from one place to another. You express then that it is in our hands to heal because we created the condition. And this is a very resisted concept. No one wants to be made responsible for having created their cancer or their diabetes. How do you go about this? What is your, how do you resolve this?
Yeah. I can give you a classic example of this cancer, when you said cancer, right? There was a case of cancer in Vivekananda Yoga University's health center called Prashanti. And this lady had come down with cancer, and so she enrolled herself in this therapy. And when counseling was given, for a month, all the treatment and the yogic counseling was given, she understood what mind is, okay? And she understood who we are. Am I the mind? That's the number one. Yes, you're right. Mind's nature is to wander. Mind's nature is to be what it is. But am I the mind? So all of this she understood in 1 month, and then she realized that she was responsible for her own cancer. How? She was a wonderful person. She was a type C personality, which means a very nice person, married to another wonderful family with a great name and fame. So both families, her parents' side, her husband's side, were wonderful families. And she wanted to keep up that good name. And she went on being charitable to all her family members. So some of her brother-in-law and all these folks were just lazy, would not do many things, and they would command her, order her, and she took it very calmly at the outset. But deep inside, she was very stressed out because she was, she didn't like being commanded, she didn't like being ordered, she didn't like doing all that she was doing, but she was doing happily with a smile on her face. And when she was counseled towards that freedom to do, to not to do, or to react, not to react, or to react in some other way. And the message she got was, it's okay to be a good person inside and outside. It's okay to deny doing all that she didn't like to do and exercise her freedom and say, sorry, I cannot do this. And it's okay for people to say she's not that great of a lady anymore. But what is not okay is to put up a face and suffer inside. Suffering inside is as bad. Giving yourself, basically, that's the violence part. Violence is not something we do to outside people. When we hurt ourselves, we suffer, and that's the violence we are causing much worse. So when all this was given to her, she understood it, and she said, yes, I know now that I am responsible for my cancer. And she even said, I'm thankful for my cancer because I understood how deep this entire life is.
So perhaps, if anything, we could say that rather than just creating an illness, there is a certain message in an illness. There is a certain information that the illness is bringing to our awareness, so we can modify our lives. Well, that's good. That's a different way of understanding it. How do you see the future of yoga therapy? How do you think? What do you think is going to happen?
It's definitely a growing field in the sense of interest, but also I think there's a lot of naysayers in the Western world who are looking for the complementary sides of things. And part of it is because I think the audience is smart as well, and recognizing that, you know, it's more than the symptoms that I'm now addressing. There's a deeper and root cause that I need to be addressing around this. And I'll just share this. I heard this through a speaker, and he was sharing of how the East and West sort of come together very complementarily. It's where you go to the Eastern sciences, where if your doctor comes and tells you that the issues are hereditary, immune-related, or allergy-related, and if you're going to your Western doctor and you're not getting those resolved in a year's time or whatever it is, you need to go see your Eastern partners on the other side. And part of that is going to be the bridging that occurs, and through the research that's starting to come out more and more so, and I think because it's tailored more towards the Western audience, as we spoke about, that it's more around, you know, let's talk about that backache or the diabetes versus the full body kinds of concepts. I think that's how you're going to start getting more of the awareness growing. It's going to be where we're seeing a lot of the Western medical doctors, the nurses, becoming a part of the training courses on the Eastern side as well. And we're seeing those therapies, which is happening already, and you're starting to see a lot of that come about in the post-traumatic disorders, with a lot of the war veterans coming into the play.
How would people get in touch with your organization if they want to do so?
YogiBharati.org, www.yogabharati.org. We have all websites completely up and running. Everything is there. Contact is there. Classes that we are conducting, the workshops that we conduct, therapy that we conduct, all of that is given in that.
Well, I must thank you personally for having come here today and shared your knowledge, expertise, and heart for yoga with us. I also want to thank you for the organization that you're related to, because as we discussed the future of yoga therapy, I think that you are well positioned to represent yoga therapy in a good way. And I hope to have you sometime back in the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Namaste.
I hope you enjoy our show today. And if you care to let me know, please shoot me an email at antonio@yogiviews.com. I hope to see you the next time